for Washington, and that hasn't changed with Afghanistan. The 10-country region is a growing battleground for influence between the United States and China. Washington has repeatedly criticized Beijing's expansive claims to almost the entire South China Sea. Southeast Asian nations, including Brunei, Malaysia, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Taiwan, have all rejected China's expansionist claims to the resource-rich region. Kamala Harris's Vietnam leg, however, has sparked criticism. The Afghanistan crisis has prompted comparisons with the trauma of 1975 Saigon, when US helicopters ferried final evacuees from the embassy roof as Viet Cong troops advanced. US officials, though, insist the Vietnam trip was planned long before the Afghan debacle. Analysts believe, despite the Afghanistan debacle, the US cannot afford to ignore Southeast Asia. Mustafa Izzuddin, a senior international affairs analyst at consultancy Solaris Strategies Singapore, says, quote, "Following the previous administration and what's happening in Afghanistan, it is a categorical imperative for the US to build up political trust in this region," unquote. It is a categorical imperative for the US to build up political trust. Portland in the United States witnessed yet another clash on Sunday as demonstrations turned ugly between far-left and far-right groups. The two groups, Antifa and Proud Boys, gathered at separate locations until it led to a confrontation. Gunshots were fired and pepper sprays were used by the groups. The police said they have arrested one person in connection with the firings. Earlier in the week, Portland's Mayor Ted Wheeler said he hopes the protests would be peaceful and asked people not to engage, while the police emphasized the need to make tactical approaches.
You should not expect to see police officers standing in the middle of crowds trying to keep people apart. Remember, arrests do not always happen in the moment. After past violent events, we have consistently conducted follow-up investigations, made arrests, and forwarded cases to the Multnomah County District Attorney for prosecution. Just because arrests are not made at the scene when tensions are high does not mean that people won't be charged with crimes.
Portland had become a flashpoint against racism and police brutality after similar clashes were reported last year in the same month, when pro-Trump rallies collided with the Black Lives Matter protesters following the death of George Floyd. Post-2020 presidential election, Oregon, much like the United States, is deeply divided between the Republicans and Democrats. Amid a new resurgence of virus cases, the UK has now started to roll out free COVID antibody tests for the public as part of a nationwide antibody surveillance scheme. The newly launched program aims to find out how much natural protection people have after getting infected with the virus. The UK Health Security Agency will offer these finger prick tests to help improve the understanding of the concept of immunity against COVID-19. Under the program, anyone aged 18 and above will be able to opt in for an antibody test while booking for a PCR test. The first set of tests would have to be done as soon as a person tests positive, so the body does not get time to generate antibody in response to the infection. The second one would be done 28 days later and measure the antibodies following the recovery. Meanwhile, Israel has now launched an antibody testing program for children aged as young as 3. The testing system has been launched to collate information about the number of unvaccinated children who might have developed protection against the virus. The scheme comes at a time when the students are gearing up to return to schools for a new academic year. According to authorities, those children with sufficient antibodies will not be forced to quarantine when exposed to a COVID patient, a move aimed at limiting mid-year disruptions for school kids.
לא ידענו שהוא היה חולה, אבל כנראה שהוא היה. יצא עם נוגדנים לקורונה, וזה אומר שהוא עכשיו מקבל תו ירוק. אני אפילו לא יודעת לכמה זמן, אבל הוא מקבל תו ירוק ויכול לחזור בבטחה לבית ספר.
The Southeast Asian nation of Vietnam is currently witnessing a resurgence of infections fueled by the Delta variant cases. With over 11,000 new cases and 737 COVID-related deaths in 24 hours, Vietnam reported its highest daily death toll on Sunday. The majority of the cases were reported in Ho Chi Minh City and neighboring Binh Duong province. The latest surge in cases have prompted the authorities to impose a strict lockdown in the region. The Vietnamese government on Friday imposed another 14 days of lockdown in Ho Chi Minh City, with tight. The latest surge in cases have prompted the authorities to impose